You're listening to Built Together, the podcast all about Blacks united in leading technology, hosted by Audrey Bell-Kearney. These stories of innovation, collaboration, and upward movement will inspire and empower you. So take out a pen and paper, and let's get the party started.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Built Together. I got to tell y'all something funny. I've been on vacation, and guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to hit the go live button. So I've talked about 3 minutes and was talking to nobody but my guests because you guys can hear or see me. And so I know you probably were wondering where I am. It wasn't until Facebook popped up and said, listen, you go live in 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm not even live. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us today. I've been on hiatus from Built Together, but I'm back. I've been on hiatus from Popcorn and Politics. And the reason I've been on hiatus is because I host about 7 podcasts and in the process of launching a new one and co-hosting a couple with some other people. But I ain't complaining because it's a great thing. Before I bring my guests up, I want to share that we are having the Building the Black Metaverse event coming up on July 29th in Atlanta at Kit Labs. And so we're going to have speakers come up and we're going to have fireside chats. We're going to be talking about Web3. And for those of you who don't know what Web3 is, it's where the metaverse meets the real world, right? So if you are thinking about metaverse and NFTs and crypto and DAOs and all that good stuff, you don't want to miss this event. We're going to have NFTs conversations. We're going to have crypto conversations. We're going to have DAO conversations. We're going to have cybersecurity conversations. And we're going to have a conversation about how to get that money for all of these ventures that you want to do in the tech space. And I'm excited about that. And so we're going to be talking about that and talking to some amazing people. And so I want you guys to join. Now, listen, we are sold out. However, I know somebody that knows somebody. So if you want to attend that event on July 29th at Kit Lab, which is located in Atlanta, email me, Audrey, and I drop my email in the chat, audrey@noisemedia.us. And I can get you in because I know somebody that knows somebody. All right. Now, my guest today, when I found out about the name of her company, Black Girl Nerds, I thought about myself. So this whole time I thought I was cool, right? And we are cool. So we are cool, because we're smart and cool. And so when I saw the name, I thought that was pretty cool, because I always say that I'm an old lady geek, right? Because I like tech. I love media, which is why I do so much of it. And so it's interesting when I meet other females in this space that do great things. So Jamie Broadnax. Now, when I saw her last name, I went to high school with a young lady. Her last name was Broadnax. And I'm like, I got to ask her, is that any relatives? But she's in Atlanta, but we went to Westside High School in Newark. So it may be family, may not be. It's not, it could be. But anyway, Jamie is amazing. She's doing some amazing things. She's the founder of Black Girls Nerd podcast and also online publication. She's written for Variety Magazine, The Hollywood Reporter, The New York Post, HuffPost, Vox, Essence, SYFY, Washington Post, just to name a few. She's been noted and she's been recognized by Shonda Rhimes. Everybody knows Shonda. My husband said to me a little while ago, he said, because I'm the president of a chamber, vice president of a chamber, he said, and I got to put out some fires tomorrow. And he said, so you like that lady that had to clean up everything for the president? I was like, what lady? He's like, the lady had to clean up everything for the president. So I'm trying to figure out what was he talking about. He was talking about Scandal. So just for those of you who don't know, Scandal was one of my favorite shows, and I hate they took it off the air. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So my guest today is just amazing. She's doing amazing things. She's in media, and she has, she's did stories on Oprah and some other people. I'm going to let her tell her story better than I can tell it, but she is a storyteller just like myself, and I want her to tell it. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Ms. Jamie Broadnax to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm a little hoarse, but I'm okay. I won't complain. So thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're busy, because I know if you do like I do, and I saw you on like episode 299, so that I know you're busy.
Indeed. Yeah. Wow. Almost at 300 episodes of the podcast.
You are. So I kind of gave a brief synopsis of who you are. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and how did you get into media? Because I see you've been some powerhouses, Washington Post, the New York Post, HuffPost, Essence, all of those big ones. How did you get into media?
I've always been into media. I mean, I went to vocational school for TV production during the last 2 years, my junior year and senior year of high school. I went to a vocational school where I studied TV production. So I've always wanted to do TV. I actually went to graduate school with a degree in film. So I've got film experience. So media has always sort of been my wheelhouse. But as far as like writing for those publications, a lot of that started because of the work that I did at Black Girl Nerds. And the story behind Black Girl Nerds, I love telling it, is I had always been writing, as far as, you know, the blogosphere is concerned. I've always been writing blogs, and I started with writing about movies. I wrote about the independent movie scene, but one day I decided to go on Google and I typed in the term Black Girl Nerds and nothing came up. So I decided to create a space called Black Girl Nerds, and it evolved way quicker than I could have ever expected. And it's become what you see today. And by creating that space, it's given me a lot of opportunities that I could have never expected, including being asked by many editors of those publications to write for them, alongside running my own business. So it's been an incredible journey.
You know, that's so cool because how I love media too, but I wasn't always in media, but I got in media because someone asked me to co-host a show with them. And once they asked me to co-host, I was like, I love this, and I stayed in this space, and I've been in space ever since. I can tell you that I've always loved magazines. I'm a magazine junkie. You know how people spend their money on coffee and cigarettes? I spend mine on magazines to the point where I had to look at my budget like, wait a minute, my money is going somewhere. Oh, it's going to magazines. So I've always loved magazines, and I think it's so cool. And I tried my hand a couple of times at magazines, and I published one now. But I think it's so cool that you did something that you love, and people came knocking. So some people are saying blogs are dead. Like, oh, blogs are dead. It's all about podcasting and video. What's your thoughts on that?
Ooh, I disagree. I think blogs, and I like to refer to my site as an online print publication. Because, you know, when I first started blogging, back then, a blog was like a personal web diary. That was the actual definition of a blog. So there's so much more to our space than obviously that. You know, we cover news, we cover entertainment, we do personal op-eds, we do integrate the podcast space into the publication. So there's a lot more to the content that we provide than what I guess initially what a blog was presented to be when that first was entered into the into cyberspace, so to speak. But I don't know, to answer your question, I'm not certain if it's dead, because there's always going to be a space where they're going to want to consume digital news. If anything, what's dying is print news. That is a space that unfortunately has been struggling for some time now. People are looking to their smartphones. People are looking, to a place where they can just obviously scroll and get short form content to get their news. And obviously micro, I guess, blogging spaces like Twitter, like Facebook, and even interesting spaces like TikTok, people are getting news from. So no, I disagree. I don't think it's a space that's dying. And the podcast space is obviously another space where people are getting their news in a different kind of format, where they're able to multitask and listen to content while on the go. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've been, it's so crazy because I've been in media for 19 years. And so when I first started, the only thing they had out was Blogger. Remember Blogger?
It was how I first started. My site was on blogger.com.
Blogger.com. So that's all they had. But now you have so many great platforms. And when I first started podcasting, all they had that I knew about was Blog Talk Radio. So it was like, okay, it's this radio thing.
That's where I started my podcast.
Right. So I don't think it's going away either. I think it's evolving. And like you said, people they want to get their content the way they want to get it. Some people don't want to listen. They don't want to watch you. They just want to read because they're readers. I personally, I like you, I have a blog and a podcast and a TV network. I have all of them because I'm in media. So it's like the whole gamut. So but that's me thinking about what I want the future to look like for my company. So for me, I don't think it's dying. I get this question all the time, and I'm sure you probably get the same question. Well, how do you make money? I get that all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
So how have you been monetizing your media platforms?
Oh yeah, great question. So I've been, I mean, it took a minute, but I've been blessed to be able to monetize my website through ad revenue. So if you go to blackgirlnerds.com, you will see ads running, headers running at the top, footers at the bottom, sidebar ads. It's not inundated with ads everywhere, pop-ups and all of that craziness. But we make enough revenue to where I'm able to pay a team of writers, editors, and it's been that way for quite some time now, to the point where, this is my full-time job, and it's definitely been a blessing. I never thought that I would be able to leave my 9-to-5, which, Black Girl Nerds for me started off where I was working a 9-to-5 job and doing it, while I was at work, typing on my computer, taking calls. I worked at a law firm for quite some time, and I was a receptionist. So I'm taking calls and then like blogging, and then I had a team of folks that unfortunately did not get paid. They were doing it for free, out of the kindness of their hearts. But now I'm in a space where I'm able to monetize, and that's been awesome. And even in the podcast, we've been able to monetize there. Same deal. We've worked with a hosting company that's able to give us ads through them. And that's been, a blessing in and of itself. And I've been able to do deals with, throughout having this site, I've been able to have relationships with various companies and putting together proposals and packets and saying, hey, here's our value, here's our media kit, here's our advertising kit. You can advertise on our podcast, you can advertise on our social media platform, because once you build a following on social, you can make money there. So yeah, that's, generally how I've been able to, earn revenue on Black Girl Nerds is through our website, through our podcast, and through our social media. And then we have a YouTube channel, and, we've been able to monetize in that capacity.
I think it's so cool. I don't think people realize how powerful these platforms are, right? Because, you can literally create your own media company and monetize it all. I remember when I first started my first show, Good Morning Gwinnett, I knew that the first thing people were going to ask me was, how many listeners do you have? And we didn't have any numbers at the time. But so what I did was, I did like you, I automatically built all my monetization right into my website. So it's advertisements up there. It's a store up there. It's all these different ways to monetize right out the gate. But now it's different. I do a lot of consulting and a lot of training. So but here's the thing, and I'm sure you're going to agree, you have to make the commitment to be consistent.
Absolutely. 100%. You have to commit, and you have to have the mindset that, is this something you're willing to do for free for a period of time? Is this something that you're passionate about? Because you have to have the passion for it. Like, this is not something I ever expected to monetize off of. I just really love fandom culture. I really love, media. I love entertainment. So I never expected that Black Girl Nerds would be something that I'd be doing for a living. And, maybe for some people, they go into whether it's, building an online publication, whether it's podcasting, wanting to make money off of it. But you've got to make the sacrifice where you're like, I know that for a time, this is going to be something where I'm not going to make revenue within the first year, or maybe first couple of years. So once you have that commitment and that mindset, then you're on the right track. Because otherwise, if you go in saying, oh, wow, I didn't make any money this month, then you've already set yourself up to fail before you started.
Absolutely. I started my podcast in 2018. It wasn't until 2020 that I actually started monetizing it, because it's very hyper local. It's all about Gwinnett County, where I live. And so it was like, okay, so who's going to pay me for what I'm doing? It took me 2 years, but that's me. And that's me podcasting live 4 days a week. Now I'm doing it 5 days a week. So it took some time. And, but I'm okay with that, because I love what I do, and you have to love it. I tell people this all the time. I talk to somebody every day about podcasts. If you don't love it, you're going to fail. And that's really important. Now, I like the fact that you got the podcast. I like the fact that you got the YouTube channel, the online publication. Talk
Mhm.
about the YouTube channel for a minute, because I love
Yeah.
podcasting. I love it all. But there are some people who are definitely afraid of YouTube. There are some people who are definitely afraid of being on camera. There are some people who say
Mm.
you can't make any money on YouTube. I was looking at this girl last night. She's like, I was on YouTube. She said, I lost my job. And I got an email saying I was fired. She said, I had to figure out how to do something. She was like, she said her first 3 months, she made like $3,600 on YouTube from scratch, coming out the gate. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, what? So let's talk
Wow.
about that for a second, because I know that there are great opportunities on YouTube. I haven't been able to crack the YouTube nut yet, so I'm still trying to figure that part out. But I have so
Yeah.
many other platforms, so I don't fight with YouTube as much. So talk about that, and how have you been able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I have not either. I mean, we do make money off of YouTube, but definitely not no 3,600. So, I would say for YouTube, that is tricky, because YouTube has this very mysterious algorithm that nobody has been able to figure out. I think that YouTube is really, the one thing I can say about their algorithm is it favors consistency. So as
Mm,
long as you are constantly uploading content to YouTube, you can make money.
mhm.
And to put it, frankly, you have to be a slave to their algorithm. So I know for us as a publication, we don't put up that many videos on YouTube. I may put up maybe 2 videos a week on YouTube at the most. And we do okay. But the bulk of our business is the website. But I would say to anyone that does want to create a business on YouTube is focus on consistent content. Figure out exactly what your niche is, figure out exactly what it is that you want to do. Make sure, again, this is something you're passionate about. This is something you really want to do. Go in knowing that right away you're not going to make a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to build that following, you've got to build that audience. But if you're consistent with it, you can maintain that algorithm that YouTube wants, because that's what they care about. And you can potentially make some good money on YouTube. Because yeah, there are people on YouTube that, I mean, shoot, there's people that are like millionaires on YouTube.
Yep.
So
Just over
it's
YouTube.
definitely potential. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I know one of the things YouTube they're asking you to have 1,000 followers, and I think what it 4,000 watch hours, I think it is. How did you get to your first 1,000 followers?
Gosh, that's a good question, because I was kind of like what you were saying before about being scared of being on camera. I was very scared of being on camera, and I'm still not on camera that much. Many of the videos that you see on our YouTube channel is our contributors and our other journalists. So I don't even really remember how we got to 1,000 followers. I think it was just through having content and just being consistent with having the platform up there for so long. I mean, the channel's pretty old. I know it's at least 10 years old.
Oh wow.
So I just think the longer that you have content up there, the subscriber growth is just organic, and it'll just grow. So I wish I could remember the answer to that question, but I don't.
That's okay. It's so funny. And the reason I ask is because everybody's trying to get to that first 1,000. It's like, well, you need to do this and you should do that. And I did this. So I always ask that question. Like anybody who has a following on YouTube, how did you get to that first 1,000? Because I think I've been on YouTube probably, I'm gonna say 8 years at least. And I still have not
Mhm.
cracked, I think, 100 subscribers. But I must say that all of my content pretty much is audio. So that's one of the problems. I have probably about 700
Oh, okay.
audio videos up there on YouTube. So it's pretty much all audio. However, I heard recently that YouTube is about to flip and add podcasting to the platform, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, then we might
Yeah.
do probably
Yeah.
better on the platform then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. Well, and I'm not all that excited because remember, Facebook did the same thing. They had Facebook podcast, and it went away this year. They launched it last year, and it's totally gone
Oh,
this year.
oh,
So
okay.
I'm not that excited about it. So anyway, have so you said your online publication, your online publication, is it print and online?
No print, just online. I mean, eventually I'd love to do print, like maybe special edition. It's just print is very expensive. So,
Yeah.
but right now it's just exclusively online.
Have you thought about doing print on demand? Because that's what I do. Like we have a publication called Noisemaker, and we do print on demand. Like we lay it all out. It looks just like a magazine. We send it to our print on demand company, so if people can get it digitally, they can buy when they want to. We house none in house. We don't print out any, and keep them on hand unless we're doing some networking and things like that. Because I just feel like I love magazines, so it makes sense for me to have print on demand. So when we do have to network, we'll have something to hand out. But we don't print out a lot. It's just like, okay, we got a networking event, let's order 50, and that may be a little bit high, not too high though, because it's not really bad. I want to say for a 16-page publication, it's like $3.20. So it's not that bad.
Okay.
And so we print them out when we're doing like, events and things like that. And we just want to have something in hand. But I think that could be a
Right.
good thing for you because you got some great content. I saw your website. I was like, oh, did you know that they just shot an episode of the Black Panther 2 right here in Gwinnett County? I just found this out yesterday. I was excited. Then I was mad, like, you should have told me. Why didn't you tell me? So
I'm
you're right
excited.
up
I
there.
can't wait. I'll be going to Comic-Con in the next week or so, and Wakanda Forever is going to be there, obviously, because Kevin Feige announced that Marvel Studios will be at Comic-Con, so of course Wakanda Forever will be there. So I can't wait for that. So yes.
Yeah. Me
Very
too.
excited.
I love it. So how many people do you have in your team, and how did you go about finding these people to say, first of all, the ones that volunteered for free, because that's a little hard. How did you find them
Right.
and move them over?
Yeah. So, when Black Girl Nerds first started, like, I love telling this story. Like when I first started the website, literally within, I would say 24 to 48 hours, I had an author, no less, a published author, email me and reach out to me and said, I want to write for your site, which I thought was just absolutely amazing. So many of the people that work for Black Girl Nerds, well, I would say at the beginning, were people that just stumbled onto the site and just really liked the content and was like, I just really like the mission. I really like, what you stand for. And I really want to just be a part of the movement. So they volunteered to write for the site. This new team that I have, this new crop of writers that I have are great professional women and men who I've recruited through, the traditional job recruiting methods. And I'm really proud of that because, they're very, talented, super sophisticated writers. And, we go through this very professional editorial process. I recently hired an editor. So the publication is actually run like, an actual publication like you'd be working for at a magazine or even an online, outlet or something. So I am really happy with the infrastructure that we have now versus when I kind of first started, where I kind of didn't know what I was doing because I had sort of this, I forget what the term is called, but, where you just don't have this confidence in yourself as a leader. And I certainly didn't have that, even though I was the leader, I was the boss, and I was running this publication, but I didn't even want to call myself a boss. And I wanted to have this sort of egalitarian sort of equity between all of the folks that were working with me. And like, we're all a team and we're all on the same page, but that sometimes doesn't always work when you're in that when you're in business. You have to be a boss and you have to delegate and you have to, set boundaries and set guidelines and rules. And when you don't, people walk all over you. And, so now that I'm in this stage of my, of my life and in my career as an entrepreneur, I understand now what it's like to be a leader in business. And I feel more confident in who I am. And it takes making a lot of mistakes and making some big mistakes to get there. But that's all a part of the journey. So, but yeah, it's a great team. And I'm glad that I I have a great group of folks that really are happy with what they're doing and are very professional in the ways that they're doing it.
Now, how did you make that transition? Because you had to go from being a member of the team to being a leader of the team, and you were uncomfortable doing that. So how did you make that transition? Was it you meditating, manifesting? What'd you do? Getting a coach, getting a leadership training? What'd you do?
It took failing very badly in public, and then it took coming to a Jesus moment where, meditating, coming to the realization that, Jamie, you can't, you have to realize that you have to be confident about yourself. Listening to a lot of motivational speakers. One of the best motivational speakers out there, I was actually just listening to him in my car today, is Les Brown. I love listening to him. Mm-hmm. Just having confidence in myself and listening to that every day, not just listening to it once and then going about my day and then letting it just be this fleeting thought that just leaves. And then I go back to making the same mistakes, but letting that be like, a habit where, this is something that sticks. It took all of those things to make me make that transition. And I'm still in the process. I'm not, I am not anywhere near where I'm like, okay, I am at perfection. I have reached my level of, where everything is where it's supposed to be. No, I'm still a work in progress. But I'm a lot better now than where I used to be.
So the failure, can you share with us what that failure was? You said, excuse me. My phone went off. Can you share with us what that failure was that made you say, okay, I need to have a come to Jesus moment, because that's a little rough?
Well, without getting into the details of it, I will say that I had, put together, I had worked with a team of individuals to put together an event that did not go as planned. And unfortunately, the individuals that were supposed to put together this event did not know what they were doing. And I made the mistake of believing in those folks. Mm-hmm. And I do take accountability for being a part of that. But at the same time, I feel very bad that there was a lot of people in my community that counted on me to, make sure that everything was to come together because my name was a part of it. So it was a very sad situation. A lot of relationships was broken as a result of it. And it, had the event happened and was a success, it would have been one of the greatest accomplishments of my career. And it's something where, and I was listening to Les Brown, and it's like, you take risks, and it was a risky thing to do. But at the same time, I think to myself, I did something where I took a risk, and I actually don't ever want to live a life where I just sit on the sideline, where I'm just not doing anything. So even as horrible as that event went, as horrible as that situation unfolded, and the circumstances of, my reputation and the backlash behind it, I did something where I thought there was some good that was going to come out of it. I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and that's something I won't regret. And I failed. But in the failure, I learned a great lesson out of it. And would I have chose a different way to have learned a lesson? Absolutely. But I'm glad that I have been able to learn some hard lessons from it. And it's allowed me to course correct my life in a way where both personally and professionally, I've been able to really adjust how I manage people, how I engage with folks in both my professional relationships, how I communicate with people, how I listen to people, how I make sure to not say yes to everything, to manage things like self-care, to not feel bad about offending someone if they think, oh, well, why aren't you with us on this? And to not always care about what everybody thinks about you. That is something that's been a fatal flaw of mine for years. And I'm at a stage now where I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. I used to always wear my heart on my sleeve, and I don't. So just all of those things I've learned from my lesson. And so yeah, that was the failure, without again going into details. I mean, you can Google my name and find out what happened, but the thing is, I'm now at a place of peace about it, and it's definitely made me a stronger person.
Listen, that's what experience and failure would do for you. It will make you stronger. And if you don't get stronger, you're going to repeat that. At the top of the show, guys, I think you didn't hear it because I forgot to hit go live, but I was saying how I launched the NFT and I was so excited. And it took me probably about a good 3 or 4 weeks to actually figure it out. Then I figured it out, and then it launched and nobody bought it. And I was like, holy crap. So it flopped, but I learned a lot. I learned that, okay, you need a community before you launch the NFT, Audrey. Okay, I got that check. Now you need to make sure that it's like this amazing artwork or whatever it's going to be that means something. I'm like, okay, check. So you learn a lot. And here's the thing. You can't be afraid of failing, because failing is just an opportunity to learn. It's just an opportunity to experience something different so you can do something better next time moving forward. I think the podcast space, I think the blogging space, I think the video space, they're all just great platforms for all of us moving forward. If you had to pick between the three, which one would be your favorite?
I really love the writing. I really love working on the website. I even love the editing part, reading what my journalists are writing about, reading what their opinions are about a movie, or when they're doing op-ed pieces on whether it's right now the state of where we are with pro-choice, and just seeing just all of their thoughts and opinions on different topics. I love that aspect of it. I do enjoy the podcast. We recently launched more of a hybrid podcast where we do exactly what you're doing. We're actually on StreamYard as well. So we've added the video component. Since 2013, our podcast has only been in audio format. So recently we've started doing video. So I do enjoy that a lot, but I really love doing the writing part of it, because it's, at the heart of it all, I've always been more of a writer than anything else. That's probably why you don't see me on video that much.
Because you like to write.
I like to write. Yeah.
I'm not on video as much either. I like for me, it's the talking. So podcasting, that's why I go live for it. I think I got 7. I lose count in so many of them. I have a whole network of podcasts, y'all. But it's the talking for me. Like if I could just do that and nothing else, which I probably could if I just hired some people. That's all I would do. So it's funny how we all have our favorite thing. Now I got the video. You see this hybrid thing going on. Then I got the whole internet TV thing that's on Apple and Android and all of that stuff. So I need video for that. So, I mean, it works out. I'm not going to complain because it is moving forward and I love it. If you had to give some advice to those who are looking to start in our space, whether it be podcasting, blogging, because I love blogging too. I started out blogging first. I just happen to run my mouth more. Blogging, video, podcasting, what advice would you give them? Because I think some people, and I give you a prime example, people come to me all the time, I need to start a podcast, right? They say this all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, yep, you do, right? And then they don't want to make the necessary investment of time or money. And as soon as you start talking dollars to them, they're like, oh, okay. Then they started hemming and hawing. And I keep telling them, stop waiting for Netflix to send you a check. It may not happen. Be a Netflix. Get on all these platforms. My show, Good Morning Gwinnett, Jamie, is number 1 in Georgia as a hyperlocal podcast. Number 1. Wow. In Australia is number 3 under news. And I was like, what? So when I say you need to be on podcast, you do. what advice would you give them? Because you've been doing your podcast a little bit longer than me. I've been doing mine since 18. What advice would you give them? And so let me just say this. When I started in 2009, it wasn't a thing. It started picking up steam after I quit the first one after 200 episodes. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't make any money. And then I stopped and then I picked it back up again. So if you had to give someone advice starting in our space, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say number one, don't get frustrated if your podcast doesn't pick up steam right away. The podcast industry is changing substantially, and it's very challenging right now. I mean, for someone that's been in it as long as I have, it's even challenging for me. So don't get frustrated that you're not getting as many downloads. Just stay in it, because everything is fleeting, everything is evolving, audiences come and go. Just stay consistent. You're always going to have an audience of people that's going to be loyal to you if they like your content. So that's number one. Also, find ways to promote your podcast. Don't just stick to a one-trick pony. Make sure that you have a website where you are making sure that your content has a place to live. So keep a website there, have socials to help promote that, because, sometimes the people just go ahead and put it up and rely on the hosting company. And sometimes hosting companies help promote your content, but a lot of them don't. So I would do that. And yeah, just stick with it. Just stick with it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, it's been hard in the podcast space because there's a lot of celebrities that have joined this space and has made it really hard for us independent folks. So it has been a more challenging space that, because a lot of them have their arsenal of publicists and I mean, I get press releases in my inbox from folks that are like, so-and-so has got a new podcast. Can you interview them? And I feel some type of way because I'm like, I have my own podcast. Why am I interviewing this person that has their podcast? So that is where we are. But just stick with it. As long as your content is something that is unique, or even if it's not unique, as long as you're consistent and you have an audience, they're going to stick with you. And as long as you like what you're doing, then that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
And you got to, and just to add to what you're saying, not only that, like you said earlier, you say you monetize your podcast, your website with ads, right? So if you know that you have a very niche audience, just create your content, love your content, and get look, Amazon. I'm an Amazon influencer. Lord have mercy. Who would have known? Become an Amazon merch owner, put your store on there. I have a built-in store. I have a directory, because my show is so hyper local. I built all these things in. So people that don't want to produce a podcast, they can be on my show. They can advertise on my website. But this is how I built it, because I know that my show is so community oriented to people. People down the street will say yes, but then someone, in North Dakota may say no. Like, why would I? However, I looked at my stats yesterday, and my top 4 listening audiences for the week last week was United States was number 1, Canada was number 2, India was number 3, and Albania was number 4. I'm like, Albania, but people are listening. People are listening. So you gotta be dedicated to it. You gotta stick to it. You gotta get in this and be in it for it's like investing. You got to be in it for the long haul. Please don't expect to get rich right away, because just like Jamie said, our industry is very rocky right now. However, if you have a blog, you have another chance to do something that you love. And I would say if you're putting out a podcast, especially one like this, have a blog, because you're killing 2 birds with one stone. And in that case, 3 birds. Have a blog, do the audio, do the video, take the audio, transcribe and make your show notes, make it a blog post, all of that. Create somebody asked me, Jamie, they said, Audrey, how do you do all of that stuff? I said, it's a system, and it's my system, and it works perfectly for me, right? You have to create systems, because otherwise you'll lose your mind. So listen, I want to thank you so much. How can people reach out to you and find out more about what you're doing and how to get involved with what you're doing and how to support what you're doing?
Absolutely. And I want to add one more thing to what you just said. I think everybody on social media has a little bit of a following because we spend so much time on social media. People with Twitter accounts have some kind of following. People on TikTok have some kind of following, or Instagram. So if you have a following on any of your social media platforms and you do want to do a podcast, reach out to your followers and say, hey, you know, as far as wanting to earn revenue, say, hey, if you have a business and you want to advertise, here's my podcast. We are accepting advertisements. Here's our email address. That is a grassroots approach that I used at the beginning with my podcast. And I was able to earn ad revenue from my podcast at the beginning when I wasn't getting ads through my hosting company. So I'm just throwing that out there as a way to earn revenue when you're first getting started. So as far as where you can reach me, at Jamie Broadnax is actually my handle right here on StreamYard. Okay. That's at Twitter. I don't have an Instagram account, but at Black Girl Nerds is where we are on Instagram. We have at Black Girl Nerds on Twitter. And also you can find us on Facebook. blackgirlnerds.com is our website. And if you are going to San Diego Comic-Con, I will be there. So happy to say hi to anybody that is going. And yeah, look for our content on the site. Our show airs on Mondays, and you can listen to anywhere you stream your favorite podcasts. We do have a live show that airs live on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or excuse me, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Our next 2 episodes, or the next 2 weeks, we will not be airing a show since I'm out traveling, but every Thursday at those times.
Do you go to Comic-Con every year?
I do. I had not gone the last couple of years. They had COVID and they did virtual and all of that stuff. But yeah, I have gone in the past, and I'm very excited now that things are back to normal and fully vaxxed and boosted. Going back to Comic-Con every year.
Nice. Well, listen, Jamie, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. Georgette said she had been trying to get you for a minute. So thank you to not only you, but Georgette as well. I love what you're doing. I will be following your work because I think what you're doing is amazing. And thank you so much for taking this time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, listen, guys, that is the end of this show. I'll be back in 2 weeks for another great guest. So make sure to tune in. If you want to tune in to tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I go live 10 a.m. Good Morning Gwinnett. Just go to goodmorninggwinnett.com to listen to me live tomorrow morning. All right. So have a good one. And until next time, my friends, make it a great day. Bye, y'all.
You've been listening to Built Together, the podcast all about Blacks united in leading technology, hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. To support the podcast, visit us on the web at www.builttogether.com. That's www.built2gether.com. Follow us on Facebook and IG at Noise Media Network.